Hello and welcome back. In this video, we'll talk about types of data that computers deal with. Some of you might remember that in the very first video of the series, I mentioned that computer data is presented in the binary format, and that computers do not understand the meaning of the data they deal with. For example, if the binary sequence you see on the screen is interpreted as text, it might mean hi. However, if it's interpreted as a number, it might mean 18,537. Because of this, whenever we want a computer to process a chunk of data for us, we need to specify what type of data we want the computer to process. There are several data types in C, and in this video, we're going to talk about text and numbers. Let's go back to the program from the previous video, the program that prints Hello World. Some of you might remember that Hello World is data and printf is what processes the data. But what exactly is printf? It is called a function, and functions in programming are pretty similar to mathematical functions. Just like in math, functions in programming take arguments that go inside parentheses that follow the name of the function. In programming, these arguments are called parameters. In our example, the printf function takes only one parameter, but some functions take more than one, and some take no parameter at all. Now back to data types. Traditionally, in programming languages, text goes inside quotation marks. This is how the computer knows that it's dealing with text. In other words, by placing Hello World inside quotation marks, we tell the computer that this chunk of data must be treated as text. Now, what do you think will happen if instead of Hello World, we type, say, number 5? Let's run the program to see if you were right. Expectedly, it prints 5. Some of you might think, so what's the point of distinguishing between text and numbers? If you want to print a number, just place it inside quotation marks and feed it to the printf function. The answer is, there is in fact no difference between text and numbers if the only thing you want is printed on the screen. The difference shows when you want to do something available for numbers but unavailable for text, for example, calculation. You can add 1 and 2 and get 3 if you're dealing with numbers, but if 1 and 2 are text, adding them will not give you 3. Let me give you an example. If you want a numeric symbol to be treated as a number, not as text, it must be enclosed in quotation marks. But if you remove them in the code and try to run it, Replit will throw a bunch of gibberish text at you. You might not be able to understand what all of this text means, but I'm sure you can sort of figure that something went wrong. This is because for anything other than text inside quotation marks, the printf function needs an explicit instruction how the data that you want to print must be treated. To provide such an instruction, we need to place it inside the parentheses immediately before the data and separate the two with a comma. This is what the instruction to interpret 5 as a number looks like. The D stands for decimal number. Some of you might still say, why bother adding extra code if placing 5 inside quotation marks works just fine? And you would be right. But if instead of a single number, you want to print the result of calculation, for example 5 plus 5, it won't work. The program will just print 5 plus 5 the way it's written inside the quotation marks. But if you remove the quotation marks to tell the computer that these two chunks of data are numbers and you want to arithmetically add them, and if you specify that the result of the calculation must be treated as a number, it will print 10. Let's do a quick recap. If you want your data to be processed correctly, you need to tell the computer what type of data it is. Computers might seem smart, but in fact they're just fast and dumb. In addition, there are some types of processing that are not available for some types of data. For example, you cannot do math with text, only numbers. And in C, if you want to display anything other than text enclosed in quotation marks on the screen using the printf function, you have to specify the type of the data you want the computer to display. This is it for this video. In the next one, we'll talk about storing data and using what's called variables. Thank you for watching. See you next time.